Thanks for tuning in to the Long Island Local Podcast, recorded here at Audio Workstations in Bohemia, New York. We are interviewing local business owners, entrepreneurs, trying to provide you with the best information on all types of products and services available right here on Long Island. I'm your host, Matt, and let's jump right into the conversation. Welcome, everyone, to the Long Island Local Podcast. Today, I am sitting down with James Elliott of Century 21 Realty.
KR. Yep.
All right. Awesome. Full disclosure, I know Jimmy from way back in the day. So unlike some other interviews I've done, this is not the first time that we are meeting.
True.
And I don't know, my earliest memory of you is not my official earliest memory of you. It's a maybe. I think I remember him. So we were both involved in the Long Island local punk scene of the late 90s.
This is true.
And I believe that I think I saw you at some shows probably singing in a band. I just didn't know your name or who you were because the first time I officially met you at the Recording Engineers Institute.
Right.
Rest in peace, James Bernard, Sr.
Yeah, he did a lot. He brought a lot of people together, and he definitely was responsible for everything that we're doing here and everybody that's together now. You know, he had a positive, and that's not even just like saying in the past 10 years, 20 years. That's talking about, you're talking going back to the 60s and 70s, you know? So yeah. He did a lot.
Men had a history in recording and a passion for recording studios. Tape machines, older technology, and, we got to teach the older and the newer technology under his supervision at Recording Engineers Institute. So we're sad to see him go. We wanted to pay our respects, and because it ties into the story of how we met. So the first time I officially met you was you were studying audio as I was teaching audio, and you seemed familiar. Yes. And then we found out we both probably attended a lot of the same punk shows.
The same people.
Yeah, and probably like 97, 98, and a lot of the same like rented church halls and Knights of Columbus halls.
Yes, VFWs.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
That's where all the punk shows happened. I don't know if they're probably not going on right now as much as they used to. But that's where that scene happened. So then you studied audio.
Yeah, and you were my teacher.
Then you were an audio engineer actively. You taught audio for a while alongside me.
Advanced audio.
And then you advanced yourself into a different career.
Yes.
Which I am eager to hear more about today.
Sure.
Real estate is the specific career path that we're talking about, and it's been a hot topic on Long Island over the past few years.
It has. I mean, real estate, first, let's just jump back real quick. Obviously, being an audio engineer, I was teaching, and that was it. That was it for me. That's what I was going to do, full force. And then someone said, "Hey, you ever think about real estate?" And I was like, "No, I never really did. I think about microphones and think about, and then the more I looked at it, the more I said, well, geez, they got definitely an easier path to advance in financial area, let's say. But you know what? Surprisingly enough, working in audio and engineering and dealing with musicians and things like that, besides the teaching, I took a lot of salesmanship from dealing with clients in audio to real estate. Because surprisingly enough, it's similar. It's very similar in how you treat people and how you close a deal and how you figure out what they can afford and what you're going to get for them. And in audio, as we well know, you can't just say, "Hey, back in the day you could, but now you can't just say, "Hey, I'm charging you $65 an hour," and that's it. Because you're never going to find somebody who's going to say, "Oh, sure, just let the clock run and let's make a record." You have to ask them, well, what is your budget? What's your total budget? And this is something I learned doing it. What's your total budget? What do you have? And what do you want to do? And it's the same kind of translates to the real estate world. It's what's your budget? What do you have? And where do you want to go? And what can you afford?
That's always a tricky question for people to answer because there, I think, is an instinct to perhaps deflate the number in a fear that if you tell someone a number, they'll just take that as a cue to like utilize all the money of yours that they can in whatever way possible. Right. And so often what people will have and what they want to spend or what they're prepared to spend if necessary versus what they would prefer to spend. There's some range there,
100%.
some dynamic range, to use an audio
Yes.
term on you. And then you have to sort of figure out what the sweet spot is, right? And so it's hard for people to just say that up front, right? Because there's this like in the spirit of negotiating, people are taught to like not show all their cards in that regard.
Right.
So how do you break through that wall of confusion?
In audio, that was tough because they would say, well, I got $600 and I want to do 18 songs and I want it mixed, mastered, presented for a package, and we're going to put this record out. And you would just go, and I want it open-ended, so they could just, they would drain you to the end of your time.
Infinite revisions?
Yes. Infinite revisions and just, hey, let's mix every Saturday from now till eternity. So you'd have to kind of, correct that. In real estate, definitely a little bit easier on the negotiating end because eventually it comes down to, you hook them up with a mortgage broker or a banker and you say, okay, give them your finances and let's see where you fall and what you can actually afford. So there comes a point, like in audio, it could be open-ended and it's really tough. But like I said, going back to that, audio kind of prepared me for that and gave me more patience when dealing with customers. And, I think it all turns out to be where I think I differ from other agents is I have a lot more patience from being in audio with the clients from the beginning and give them a little bit more leeway and make them feel comfortable and say, hey, listen, let's work on this together, as opposed to saying you go to the mortgage broker and you tell them, you got to get a pre-approval letter and that's it. I go, hey, let's work on this together. Let's see what you can afford and what's best for you. And then we find them a house in that range.
Makes sense.
A lot of agents, they like to push the package and just get it done, but I try to be a little bit more helpful for that. And I think, again, it goes back to dealing with musicians because... You're
saying if you can handle and have patience for musicians, you can handle anything.
Absolutely.
Take no offense, musicians. He doesn't mean it that way.
I am one.
Exactly.
So.
It takes one to know one.
Yes. It was definitely, and it was always a topic. I taught advanced audio at the school, and I think for a couple of weeks or something, I had kind of been dumped into the business course just when they were doing the business course there. And I just remember everyone was like, I want to make 50 an hour. I want to make 80 an hour. I want to make 100 an hour. And I said, well, listen, that's great, but it all depends on what that person has.
Yeah.
You can't make 80 an hour if they only have $1,000. Well, yeah, sure, you can make 80 an hour, but you're going to give them, 10 hours recording,
Yeah.
And that's going to be it, So you got to kind of work within someone's budget. Again, translates to real estate. If someone says, well, hey, I got my pre-approval and I can afford $450,000, I can't go showing them $1 million house. It's just it's not going to work. So I think the two kind of, and I always thought that was interesting and recently been thinking about it, how those two correlate.
Right.
I think it's pretty cool.
I think the theme is like, getting a sense for what people are prepared to really do / spend. And then there's I'd say a game, but it's not a game, of expectations management, right? It's like for what you're prepared to spend and do here, how much or what level of, quality or quantity do you expect for that?
Right. 100%. I think, both worlds have the same expectations. What can you get for what you can afford?
Right.
And that's really what it all boils down to.
I know at some mechanic shops, and I've debated putting this up here at the studio because, I don't want to insult anyone, but there's that triangle of good, cheap, and fast.
Yes.
Right. And it says pick two.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something that you have to sometimes find a way to remind people. And that's why the sign is effective, but sometimes it takes more gentle words than that to get the point across.
Oh, 100%. And that, again, the two worlds collide again. With the audio world, it was, hey, I want 14 songs, and I only have $500. What can you do for me? Well, we could do 14 songs for $500, but we're going to do them live. We're going to get them done quickly, and you're going to get a basic mix. It's not going to be, we're not going to spend 40 days mixing your record. And we're going to get you in. We're going to get you out. And if you're comfortable with that, then that's great.
Right.
and it kind of goes over to the other side now, not so much on the finding the house part for a buyer, but like with a seller. They say, well, first thing they always ask you when you sit down to list someone's house is, how much is your commission? I know other agents that'll do it for cheaper.
Right.
These are what we call overcoming objections. And also, in reality, it's, again, the triangle, like you just said. Well, do you want to pay 4% or 3% commission with a discount broker and then have, not really put in the time or the energy to help you sell your home or actually take the care into for filling your needs, or do you want to pay somebody to do their job? Which is, everyone always says, "Oh, well, you get paid for doing nothing." Well, that's not true. We do a lot of things. Actually, if I have my list here, we do almost 201 things on each listing that that we do. We get the keys, we put them in the lockbox, we make the keys, we open. I mean, they're broken down, but it's
made a list.
Yeah. There's
Did
a
you
list.
check it twice?
There's a list with my company,
Okay.
with Century 21. Because a lot of agents will say, well, the client will ask them, well, what do you do? I do an open house. No, that's not really convincing the client that you're working for your money. But there are so many things that agents forget that they do on a daily basis. So, again, do you want fast and cheap? Well, you could do that.
Yeah.
Or do you want to pay your commission and get your house sold properly and have someone there with you every step of the way? The same thing with audio. Do you want a quick record that's done live and mixed quick? Great, 500. You want to do those 14 songs and you want to put it out on a record and have it mastered and engineered correctly? What do you have to do? You're going to have to pay because the people work for their, work. That's their job. So
Yeah.
and the same as the agents.
I love that phrase that you use, like the things that they forget to do. Or,
Yeah.
sorry, things that they forget that they do.
Yeah.
And there's such a big gap between forgetting to do something and forgetting that you did something.
Yeah.
Meaning that you're so used to doing all this stuff that it's so routine that you almost forget to mention it as a thing that you do in order to
100%.
properly represent your work, because it's so much just a background thing that you always do that you feel like everyone knows that you do that all the time. But the reality is that a new client doesn't understand if they've never gone through the process before.
Right.
And so, like, in audio, when we say like the word mix, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, like, what is mixing? Well, it's EQ, it's level, it's pan, it's compression, it's reverb, it's delay,
You
it's
list all
automation. And it's just like most people don't know what those things are individually. So, but, when you start itemizing it, it starts to feel
Yeah.
like, oh, there's a lot of stuff that is being paid for here.
And you know what? There is. It's not even like it's a scam or a lie or a cheat. There actually is some, but people forget. And I'm not going to sit here on my high horse and say that I've had this thought my whole time being a realtor, and these 6 or 7 years I've been a realtor. Actually, when I moved to Century 21 from a smaller firm, my now mentor and manager in the office, Carrie Mitchell, she sat me down and said, well, so when you take a listing, what do you do for them? And of course, me, being like every other agent probably out there, said, do an open house. I advertise. I open the door. It was like 3 things. And she's like, really? That's all you do? And she made me think about it. She said, well, really think. What else do you do? And I said, oh, well, I'll make the keys. Yeah. And do you put the flyers up? Oh, you get the food for the open if you're catering. Not so much anymore with COVID, but, you're catering, you're doing it. And the list just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I started going, wow. And, you put the sign up, you take the sign down, there's so many steps. And again, are they major things that you're doing for your client? No, but they're things that if you add them up, take a lot of time.
Yeah.
And in music, we know that time is money.
Yep.
I always told my class that too. And same thing. So that's really what it comes down to. And again, as of late, being in this business and moving to Century 21, KR and Selden, being in this business, I started relating back to the audio world and thinking about how it related to, like, how did I deal with clients and how did we price things and how did we treat our, let's say, customers,
Right.
And they run so neck and neck in both fields. It's funny.
Well, it's essentially a service, right?
Yeah.
It's a service as
100%.
opposed to a product. And so there's going to be certain themes about client relations, I think, that are going to be common to anything where you're providing a service that's, it's taking place over a short period of time relative to the rest of their life. hopefully they want to come back and do it more often.
Yeah.
I suppose buying a home is a little different than making a record.
Yeah.
In terms of like, you might expect to make like a few records in a few years, and when someone buys a home, they're sort of like, okay, we're going to chill here for a little while, unless they're making a business of it.
Well, actually, I mean, yeah, there's still like maybe they're not going to turn around and be your client right away again, right? Because they just bought their house. Like, John, I know he bought his house. I helped him buy his house. He's not going to just turn around and say, all right, James, sell it for me because I did business with you. But there are obviously a million different ways that referrals can come through, and that would be, I did a great job for John and Nicole, and they said, oh, that was awesome. And then their friend comes over for dinner and says, hey, I want to buy a house. You know anybody? Obviously, we all know how referrals work. But again, still goes back, maybe that band only did 2 records, but if you did a great job for them and you treated them like your family and you made them feel comfortable and everything came out good, guess what? They're going to tell their friend's band, hey, you got to go with Matt or John or Jimmy, and record because they're awesome. They're great. So.
Or if it's a band, most likely they've broken up after 5 years after not becoming huge rock stars to their disappointment. Right. And now maybe there's 3 new bands from 3 of the members that started new bands. Maybe that's how it works with bands. Yeah. So,
well, and what's funny is there's so many similarities, and actually, just sitting here and talking to you, definitely gets me thinking about them. Another similarity is, and this goes to the profession of audio engineering, and I feel like, and real estate and audio engineering, same thing. If you don't make it the first, I don't know, I'm just guessing here, like 8 months to a year, let's say, in either one, usually you're done and you're out, because both are the same way. Like if you don't make it past your certain point in real estate, you're just not doing it. You're not putting in the effort. You're not taking care of your people.
That high initial drop-off rate of entering the field.
Yeah,
it's sort of like the first filter
high.
That you go through.
Yeah, it's pretty high for engineers as well. They have these thoughts and I remember teaching, and I would tell my students all the time, like, listen, you're only going to get, and this applies to real estate, you're only going to get what you put into it. So if you graduate from the audio school, and then you go home and sit by the phone, it's not going to ring.
Right.
Same thing with real estate. If I took my test, I graduated, I passed my test, I got my license. If I went and just sat there and said, all right, now I'm a real estate agent.
Yeah, well, it's almost
happening?
like that's when the real work begins. But
Yeah.
there's this misconception that when you finish school with anything or finish your certification or test, that's sort of like the peak of readiness, and that's really just the prerequisite for readiness. You
100%.
need that real world test of, can I actually impress someone / satisfy their needs in a real world scenario.
100%.
And it's all these individual academic thoughts that you study as individual concepts until you actually put them all together into a working practice and see how they interrelate to one another.
Yes. And I think, there's myths on both sides of this too. Audio engineering, my students used to sit there and they'd be like, oh, when I graduate, I'm going to go work in a studio in Manhattan and I'm going to record big bands and maybe one day I'll win a Grammy. And, they have all these preconceived. And the same thing with real estate. They think, when I get my license, I'm going to make $1 million the first year.
My first house will be a mansion in the Hamptons.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think reality comes crashing in and I know it did for me too, in both fields, where it was like, oh, no one's going to tell me what to do now.
Yeah.
Like, I got to do this. I got to go out, and if I don't get up and go out the door, nothing's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Same audio for sure. Like, you have to put in the work. You have to get a client. You have to, not only that, but I think in audio, your first client has to be like your best, because that's going to spread so fast. Like, if you put out a bad demo, your first client, someone's going to hear it. And they're like, oh, you did that? You recorded that? Same thing in real estate. If I got a client and I treated them badly the first time, that's going to resonate and it's going to go quick and it spreads like wildfire. So,
yeah, each thing you do is a resume / portfolio building exercise. And what you don't want to have to do is hide things from the official record and say, oh, forget about that thing that I did.
Yeah, that wasn't, that was just, I was new.
Yeah.
No one likes that. I was new.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but it still follows you.
Yeah, at least in audio, if you do some crappy sounding things at first, if you're just
Yeah.
working on like a friend's music, which is what we used to advise at the school, is just like,
Yeah.
practice on a friend who plays an instrument for free or for a super low price, because you want them to understand that they can't expect perfection out of a new person in the field, and you need that experience that's low pressure, those low pressure situations. And we would try to provide as much of that at the school as possible. But, I think it's hard for some people to let go of the safety net of knowing that there's an instructor around and really start thinking in the same high pressure scenario as if there's a paying client looking to you. Because at the school, we would have bands come in and they would be essentially getting a free recording. So they have this understanding that it's happening with students involved, and they can't really have this don't get mad card that you have because we're doing this for free for you guys. But as soon as you put money into it, into the situation, and as soon as a new graduate is like alone with a band or a client or an artist, and that artist or client says something, requests something that they don't know how to do or aren't sure how to pull off, and they have to either figure it out on the fly or make some reason known that they can't do this task, or refer someone who can at the very least.
Right.
But it helps to have some other people around you that are doing it that aren't necessarily your boss, but willing to work with you, not just give out free knowledge, but if you have that correct referral system in place, like we were saying, if you're good at recording vocals but not drums, but someone who does, you can pass along some business to them, but also hang out for it so you learn and just develop that kind of relationship.
That kind of segues into why I'm now with Century 21.
Right.
Because I started after the school. I kind of went to my own firm with my brother, who's an attorney. And we did it for quite a few years, actually, 6 or 7 years. And, it was good. It was good. But I kind of realized that, again, I was kind of left to my own devices. Right. And I was kind of not really sure which way I was supposed to be going, and when I went and met with Century 21 KR, they Carrie had said, listen, you got the framework now, you just need to put the work in, you need to promote, and you need to show the world what you got, and take those values that you took from that smaller place with you, because that worked for you, so that's what I did. I take the family values and I bring them with me as an agent. I treat every client like family, like for real, because if you don't, then you're just trying to sell someone something.
Right.
But if I treat them like it was my brother or my sister, then I'm not going to let them walk into a bad situation. I'm not going to force them to do something they don't want to do. I'm not going to show them $1 million houses when they're looking for $300,000 houses. And it's just that the whole motto and the whole small business thing that I took from recording to my own firm to now Century 21 KR, and they've got incredible support, like you were saying, referrals. If you don't know how to do something or you need help with something, they're the ones that'll, they have everything you need. So it really worked out really well, and it's going nicely. So
that's awesome. I think in both fields there's a certain amount of like freelancers mentality, but then you do find organizations, like I would hope that we would count as one for audio people, where we're not necessarily in a traditional employer-employee relationship with them, but we have in place an office space that enables them to start working at a much higher, more professional level than they can do on their own. And then we also have resources in terms of they can ask us things and we can help them and guide them. And, we're motivated for them to do well because they have membership here. The more they do well, the more of our office space they want to rent.
Yeah.
And so it's in our interest to make sure everybody is doing as good as they can be doing. And then it works out for everyone. So anyway, it's a good, I mean, this to me, like, I feel, again, we started off the show talking about Jim and everything, and I still feel like this is kind of a part of REI because he always tried to have that system for engineers in the REA, which was next door, and the kids could graduate and then they could just dump over it. And I did it myself because it was free membership, but it wasn't, that was like silly. It wasn't and
much,
Jim's
100
REA
bucks.
was for sure the inspiration for myself and my business partners creating what is now Audio Workstations is just extending that thought of an association of people who share an office space, and they don't necessarily work with the exact same clientele, and they have independent control over their own businesses, but the whole thing is like a support system.
It's very cool. I like it. I dig it.
Awesome. And you don't use your hardcore screaming tactics on your real estate clients?
Sometimes
you put on some heavy instrumentals and you go, buy this house.
Actually, yeah. Well, not so much on my buyers, but if I have a buyer that it's getting bullied around, then I might use it. No, but it's I at first, when I first got into real estate, I was like, I don't know. I like recording bands, and then I took the course, which probably to most people is boring, but for some reason I was just like, this is awesome. Like I went through that 75 hours and I was almost like at the end of it, like, when you read a good book, I was like, wow, that was like, I'm sad it was over. Like the 75 hours, I got to take this test. All right, I'll take the test. It was easy. It was an easy pass, but I was like, I really got interested in it. Like
that's cool.
I did audio, and
I don't think I would be, so I'm glad that you were.
Well, listen, when Audio Workstations blows up even bigger and you need some more commercial space, James Elliott.
Are you
from
doing
Century
commercial
20
space as well?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Do
See,
everything.
I've noticed that some people specialize in residential and some people commercial, but you're able to cross over and do a little both?
Sure.
That's good information.
We have resources beyond resources.
Listen,
Century 21.
the value of real estate, I was just discussing this with our mutual friend Steve, who's like currently investing in a very elaborate house studio,
right?
Because he happens to own a big house and he can do whatever he wants with it. Not everyone is in that position, and it's the recording studio world of economics has sort of been divided into those that can do something like that because they are essentially cutting out one of the largest chunks of overhead that a traditional commercial studio would have,
which
and that would
space.
be rent and and or buying a building or renting space.
Right.
And the tricky part is when you make a studio, if you don't own the space and you do a lot of construction to it that's soundproofing oriented, and then you have to move, you're not recouping those costs.
Right.
We have our own ways of mitigating that with our isolation booths, but in general, when you start getting into studio ownership and beyond just engineering work, you start to appreciate the value of real estate, whether it be owned or rented.
Yep.
And so there's
100%. 100%. It's definitely. I mean, real estate in general is just like everyone asks. How do you save for the future though? How do you Well, guess what? It's called real estate.
Yeah.
So how do we save from the future? Well, maybe we'll buy our investment property, or we'll So then you gotta. Real estate is a sure thing. Always. Yeah, it goes up and down, but it's always. You're going to get your money back in some form or another, unless, something catastrophic came about, which we've been even keeled, Yeah, there's dips and rises that go up and down. But again, it's a good investment. You always wind up making out for yourself. And especially if you can get yourself in a place where you buy a house, you own it, and then you buy another one and rent it. Now you have that paying itself off, and eventually when you're ready to retire, boop, 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 you sell whatever you have, and there's boom.
And if you've made sure it's a good house to buy, even better, then that's where you come in. And then also
so
my very first interview here was with a home inspector.
I saw that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And with the greatest catchphrase in home inspection, don't be ridiculous, call meticulous.
Yeah, that's right up your alley.
I loved it. And I love talking to Ray because he had a really extensive background, and he was very much like, feeling like he was on the side of the buyer end of the equation and wanting to protect them, and he felt strongly about that. And so, that all plays into the trust factor of not buying something that they will regret buying, feeling confident. And what you were saying about treating them like family, I'm sure that
you have to.
That's something you can feel too when someone's doing that for you. When they get protective over you, you can sense it.
And it's funny because someone's like, "Oh, do you treat your clients nicely, or do you treat your clients well?" And I say, "Well, when I make a phone call to them, it's generally like part of a relationship, not part of a client. I'm the provider and you're the client. Like." Maybe the first day when you meet them, it's that, because it has to be. You don't know the person, they don't know you. But I generally tend to find that probably most of my buyers and sellers. I still obviously communicate with to this day, and a lot of them I became friends with. And then, all this business of like, oh, did you follow up with your clients? Of course I did.
Right.
Because we have a relationship now. We're friends and we talk.
Awesome. So I'm glad that you like the Century 21 shift.
Yeah, it's really been great.
So what is the official avenue of contacting you now for those who might want to say hello and join their home journey with you?
You can call me. That's the easy one.
Shout out the number and we'll put it on screen.
631-974-6007.
You've got Bond in your number?
I have Bond in my number.
That's extra cool.
Or you could email me at james@c21kr.com. Yeah, you can call or email. It's fine.
Okay.
Or call the office. It's just 631-736-5200. And I'll get the message.
Awesome. And I find it interesting all the parallels that you've been able to draw from like the past world of audio, which is my current world, and the current world of real estate.
Yes, I had a couple of parallels that we ran, but as we sat here, more and more just kept popping into my head. Oh, well, that's like audio too, and that's like audio too. So
currently I'm still renting, but you're going to be my first phone call. Should I be able to buy that Long Island house?
Hey, I do commercial leasing too. So if you need anything leased for commercial, I can help you there too.
That's the least I could do.
That's the least you could do.
All right, everyone, I'm going to end on one of my famous puns. And, I thought of a joke earlier that I didn't say, and it was that, the Infinite Revisions. That's the name of my high school punk band.
The Infinite Revisions. That's awesome.
All right, everyone. Thanks for watching, and thank you, Jimmy, for coming down.
Thanks for having me.
Jimmy, a.k.a. James Elliott.
Thank you.
And give him a call or an email at Century21KR.
Yep.
And thanks for watching, everyone. We will see you next time.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to the Long Island Local Podcast. If you're interested in studio membership programs for music production or content creation, please visit audioworkstationsinc.com. And please check out our guest of today's podcast. We enjoy having on all local entrepreneurs. If you'd like to be considered for a featured interview on our podcast, please contact LongIslandLocalPodcast@gmail.com.